So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I'm currently working on a time audit Excel spreadsheet. I'm probably going to make a few other spreadsheets that are going to repeat a lot of the skills that I'm going to use on this one. But I'm starting with this one because it's going to include a form. It's going to include dependent dropdowns. So in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead. So starting with the dependent dropdowns, I'm going to create my lists. So I'm going to have since this is a time tracking format, I'm going to put across the top all of the categories of life, which I had originally seen in an Ali Abdel video. I think he got it from somewhere else, but I kind of changed it around so that it suited me. If you want a time auditing form yourself, then you just put in the fields that work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So if you are following along and you are trying to go ahead and make something like this to learn how to do the nested or dependent dropdowns, then make sure if you have a header with 2 words, either get rid of the space or use the underscore like I did, because having a space or a hyphen will break it. So I'm going to go ahead and bold these, and then I'm going to go ahead and just enter in all of my activities that fit into these categories. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight each of the data in each of the columns. These are kind of the subsections, subgroups. So up here you have your categories, down here you have your activities, so groups, subgroups. And what you want to do is right click and click on define name and make the name of the group whatever the category is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with each of these. And this is where you will run into issues if you have a space or a hyphen with self-care, because the name has to match identically if you want it to actually be able to recognize it. All right, and this last one will be sleep. And now each of these are named. That'll help when we go to make our drop downs. I'm not going to get really into a lot of like why I'm making the different files that I'm making. I mean, in a way, they're kind of self-explanatory, but yeah, again, I'm making these recordings for myself. If I see that I have some sort of engagement, I can always go back and talk about this stuff, but I don't know that I find my perspective to be any more unique or interesting than any other person who's already gone out and done a lot of this stuff. So, all right, so now I'm making a form, kind of brought it in a little bit. Actually, I'll bring it in like one more. I'm just trying to have it set up so that way the form looks good to me aesthetically. So I'm gonna make a category, I'm gonna have activity, and then start stop. And so with the form, you know, in Excel with the table, you don't necessarily want to merge and center. With the form, you want it to look nice like a form. So you do whatever whatever formatting makes you happy. All right. Here we go. So the one thing I'll add here, just because a lot of people don't know keyboard shortcuts in Excel, because I want everything to be blacked out, what I'm going to wind up doing is pressing Control and Shift and the right arrow, and that will get me all the way to the end of the form, or the end of the table. And then I can go ahead and black it out. And then if for whatever reason you wind up over here and you don't want to scroll all the way back, just Control Home will get you right back to A1. And then I'm going to insert a shape that will turn into a button. So I'm going to put that right here. Make it about that size, I think. And then I'll double click in, make it the generic text that I want it to be. I'll attempt to double click, and then I'll go home. I'll make the font size, I think 28 works. I'll center it, I'll bold it. I won't change the shape color because I actually like that color. And then I will click on the next row down, and again, Control Shift down arrow to bring me to the bottom of the spreadsheet, and there we go. And I'm gonna go to view, and I'm going to uncheck the grid lines. Okay, so now that it looks pretty, let's make it functional. So category, well, I'll start with the start stop just because it's the most straightforward, but to do a drop down list, here I'm clicking start stop. I'm going to go to data, I'm going to click on data validation, and then data validation again. Every field will have a data validation reference, and it'll default to any value. And you click on the down arrow, I'm going to make this a list. And my list is going to be very simply, I'm going to type the word start, I'm going to hit a comma, I'm not going to hit a space, and then I'm going to hit the word stop, and okay, and voila, I have a start and a stop. Now I'm going to go over, no, I'm going to click onto the category field. I'm going to not press that button, back into data validation, and then I'm going to make this a list, but this time I'm going to click this button here. I'm going to go over to categories. As you can see, this equal category exclamation point, that's what brings it back to this tab, to reference out of this tab. And then I'm just going to highlight across the top row. So these are going to be our categories, life areas, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm just going to hit enter, and then I'm going to hit OK, and again, voila. Now, activity is, again, data validation. We're going to make this a list, and this is going to be equals, indirect, open parenthesis, and click into your category field. Close your parentheses and hit enter. You're going to get this error just because it's empty right now, but go ahead and click yes, and now you'll see it's not going to give me anything right now, but if I go ahead and click on social, it gives me the fields that I had created underneath the social header on this tab. So now we have a form. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just put in some test data into the form. I see that some of the stuff is not going to show up perfectly, and some of my fields are rather long, as you can see over here, just because I need that like visual reminder of what I meant when I created a name for a combination of activities. So, all right, the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is over here, I'm just going to highlight a big area, and I'm going to change the font color to white, and that's just a temporary so I can see what I'm working on. So I'm actually going to start with a timestamp, and then I'm going to do category, activity, start, stop. I'm just naming it the same fields that are over there. So for these three, all I'm going to do is make it equal to what's on the form. So equals at, equals activity, equals start, stop. Timestamp, I'm just going to put equal now, open and close my parentheses, and hit enter. And as you can see, it gives me a date and timestamp. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to add another tab. This one is going to be our time audit log. And what I will go ahead and do is I'll copy these headers over, and I'm going to just paste values so that it's in a black font. I'll go ahead and bold this, and this is our log. So we can go ahead over here and we can start on our macro. So I'm going to the developer tab. Again, if you don't know how to do this, you right click and go to the customize ribbon option, and you can check the developer button. By the way, just full disclosure, I did learn how to make a form from the Kevin Stravert form video on YouTube. I'm doing things a little bit different than he did, and again, because there's a number of different skills that I'm trying to build, I want to just make sure that I have it all in one place, hence me just recording it and then everything's just in my own words. So Kevin Stravert already has a video for this, not trying to completely directly copy him, but that is how I learned how to make a form. Okay, so going on, as you can tell, anytime you really do anything, the now timestamp updates, which is kind of handy. So we're going to record a macro. I'm going to name it the same thing. Click OK. 5th time's the charm. I'm going to click into time audit log. I'm going to highlight row 2, right click, insert a row. I'm going to now click back over to the audit form. I'm going to highlight, copy, go back to the time audit log, and I'm going to go home and paste the values. I'm going to unbold. I'm going to change this format back to a timestamp format. I'll have to rewatch what I did the first time to see where I messed up, but mistakes can happen. It's okay. There's no judgment. Now I'm going to delete, 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 and now I'm going to stop recording. Let's go over here. Okay, it looks like everything's entered correctly. What happens then if I were to make this something else? Macro, run. Okay, so everything's cleared here. Hey, look, I don't know what I did. I'll have to rewatch the recording. But in the meantime, mistakes happen. You troubleshoot. Sometimes you just do over. I've redone this video 4 times because of forgetting to unmute my microphone, having microphone issues in general, and yeah, so mistakes happen. All right. Oops, wrong tab. Okay, so now we have a functioning form that I can go ahead and if I click on this macro, hit run, it runs. Our time audit log continues to grow. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just highlight this whole area again, and I'm going to change the font back to black because we don't need to see that anymore. And then I'm going to right click on this shape and assign a macro. And the macro that I'm going to use is this audit entry that we just created. And I'm going to, double click on it, and it should assign to this form. So now if I go ahead and I do sleep, we're going to get ready for bed, and we're going to start, and I click on the button, it cleared and it added. Sweet. So now we have a form. So that's, now we've done dependent dropdowns, we've done forms, I've done some formatting stuff, although I didn't really go too deep into it. Okay, I was like, I'm sure there's a way that I can still edit this thing. Kevin does a much better job than me on kind of the how to format things, but that's not what I'm here for. Again, if somebody watches my videos and for some reason wants me specifically to do it, I'll do it, but in the meantime, I have a working form. I have a log with, yeah, some dummy data, and so from here I can build out into like some metrics and stuff. So once you've created a form, you've assigned a macro, you're using a macro in your workbook, the next thing you're gonna have to remember to do is when you go to save it, you're going to go ahead and make sure that you click on Save As and change this name to a macro-enabled workbook. That way it doesn't break your macro that you've just worked so hard on, in my case 5 times over.